Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Erica here with a couple of ideas of how to use up some of the leftover background panels. I have a habit of making more than one when I'm on a roll, and thus I end up with a whole stack of them. So today I am going to show you what I made with a few of them, but I'm also going to go back and make a few more just to show you the process of how I make them. Now, to begin with, we are actually going to jump right into some of the bits and pieces making. So I have got my little trusted Gemini Go machine out, and you can see me faffing around with the sandwich layers. Now, I'm using black cardstock from Lawn Fawn, as well as the Everyday Sentiment banner dies. And I'm starting with the one. Now, you may notice that I'm making a bit of a fail here because I'm putting the die facing down rather than up, which is a big no-no. When you're using the metal shim, that should always be the other way around. And what I should have done here as well is maybe put a little bit of masking tape or washi tape over it to make sure it stays in place, because this bit is taking far too long. And also, it helps if you put the sandwich in the right way around. Yeah. So we're going to speed this up now, and we're going to cut out 4 identical banners in this black cardstock, which is called Black Licorice by Lawn Fawn. It's a really gorgeous black cardstock, and I use this all the time when I need black cardstock for my projects. Then we're going to go straight into some using my anti-static pouch, and you can see that I'm doing it quite vigorously because the whole image is vibrating and shaking, and I did not realize just how bad it was until I watched this video back. But by then I thought I cannot keep making more and more pieces because I'm trying to use up all these pieces rather than making more. So we're just gonna carry on, and I'm really sorry. I hope you don't get seasick from watching this. Now, with my trusted little mini Misty, we are going to stamp up a sentiment, and then we're going to heat emboss it with some lovely embossing powders from Wow Embossing. And as always, the Versamark is a oil base, so you can stamp it and you don't have to immediately rush and pour the embossing powder on. So I'm actually going to do 2 at a time because I'm planning on doing 2 in gold and 2 in white. So there we go, dab 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 on the second piece. And then getting just a plain sheet of paper out. This is just cheap copy paper, no specific brand or anything. And then just pour the embossing powder very generously over the banners, shake off the excess, and then try putting them face up, but sometimes, all good intentions and that, it doesn't always go according to plan. So there we are, 2 gold, and this one is a rich gold regular, and it's a lovely, lovely gold color. It's beautiful. I love it. This is one of my favorite gold colors. And here we are, a little bit of a close-up of the heat embossing. Look at that magic. And you can see I'm using a cheap cork board thing as a background there. I find whenever I heat emboss, if I have that behind, the paper doesn't warp as much as it usually would. And the same goes for vellum. So this is a great little trick to do whenever you're heat embossing things and you need to use them right away and you want to avoid some warping. Now, the second set of banners that were done with white. And here I am making even more of these thanks die cuts, but just to kind of show you the process of how I made them. So I'm going to end up with about 57 thank you cards by the end of this video, really. Now, I'll cut them out of black and white cardstock, as well as a lovely honey gold satin mirror cardstock from Tonic Studios. It's a really, really lovely color again. I know I overuse the word lovely, but it is such a beautiful color. And this is the one that I keep going back to over and over again. Now, you can see I'm kind of lining up every single bits and piece so that it matches. So we have gold on black, black on gold, white on black, black on white. And we're just adding these together with Lawn Fawn liquid glue tube. Now, going back to the to the backgrounds, what I've done is I used Nouveau Embellishment Mousse on these ones, but one of the cards that I made for the first card, this panel I've made ages ago, and I have neglected my mousses a little bit, so they got a little bit hard. So what I've done is sprayed a little bit of water, used a very sturdy spoon, and just kind of massaged the water into the paste. Now I've done that with all of these colors that I'm using, and I have gone straight ahead and added my stencil. This one is from Studio Katja, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called right now. I will link it down below if you want to pick it up yourself. Now I've used aquamarine, spring green, and lemon sorbet, I think, for the embellishment mousse. Now the first one here, I've gone in and I've just added the paste with spatulas, and when you do it this way you get a really sort of really texturized result when it dries. So however you leave it, if you want it really smooth, you have to work with it and just kind of make it smooth, because however you leave it, that is how it's going to dry. So if you want really texturized, you just kind of like dab it on there with your palette knife or your tool or whatever. You can add things like dab a rag on there to get a really texturized paste, or if like here, I am just gently, well, it doesn't look gentle, but I'm gently smoothing it over and filling in the holes in the stencils. And this stencil has got a very generous spraying of pixie spray beforehand. So we're going in with our second color, the spring green color here, and just kind of going over the yellow lemon sorbet. I started with the lightest color to make sure that I got a good coverage of that, and then I'm going to work in these other two colors into each other to kind of just, not like ink blending, just more like trying to get a good flow, so it doesn't just look like they've been slapped on there haphazardly, even though that is basically what I'm doing. So we're adding the final little bits and pieces here in the two corner, because I know also I'm going to cut this down into an A-size cardstock. Card size. I know I don't have to fill in the entire stencil. So there we are blending in a little bit more green into the aquamarine. Okay, and now the best part, the reveal. So gently peeling the stencil off, and you got to do this really quickly because these mousses dry quite quickly. However, I always leave my panels for 24 hours before I start cutting into them, just to make sure they are really, really dry. Now I've gone off and washed my stencil, and I've added it to another piece of paper, and I did not need to reapply my pixie spray. It is just that great. So this time we're going to do a different technique. We're going to add the mousse with blender brushes. Now, using this technique, you get a much, much softer look, and I almost think you get a little bit shinier even. And you use a lot less paste, so if you're trying to make them last, this is, one of the best ways to do it, I think. It's also a little bit easier to get a really, really even result. So if you're a bit worried about how to do this, I would start with the brushes. It is very, very similar to ink blending, however, much, much easier. Now I'm using different brushes for different colors to kind of make sure that I don't contaminate the mousses in their pots. So we're going in, sorry, I got the sniffles again. So we're going in with the green color and just gently kind of blending in and adding more color. And it's so much easier with the brushes as well to get that gentle blend into the different colors. You can see even though this is sped up, you can see how it's all kind of just much softer rather than the slightly harsher lines that I got with the palette knife. So I must have realized that I'm done with the green because I've used the same brush in the aquamarine. Now, if you know that this is going to be the last color you use and they similar, I suppose that'd be all right, but I really should give myself a slap on the wrist for this. So going in with a final little bit of yellow just to kind of add a softness over the blend. And then we are going to put these away. Now, I did, before I put these away, for real, I sprayed in a little bit more water just to keep them moist and soft for the next time I'm going to use them. Here we go. Look at that. Now you can see on this one, it's a much easier and shinier blend. So next to each other, if you want that really textured look, do it with the palette knife. If you want a really smooth look, add it with a blender brush. Now I've got all my thanks and my banners ready. So we are going to line these up and glue them together. Now I know I will end up with like, I don't know, 5 leftover pieces, but it's always good to have those thanks die cuts ready for when you need a card like yesterday. And it was a little bit of a troublesome decision there, deciding which one to go for. But eventually, it seemed like I made up my mind, and adding a little bit of Lawn Fawn liquid glue, I am gluing these together and setting them aside to dry. I think this one is my favorite. So the black banner, the black cardstock, and the gold thanks thin on top. It's just so classy and elegant, and it just works for everything. Now, once all these bits and pieces are ready, what I've done is I've cut out some card bases out of black cardstock, the same Lawn Fawn black licorice cardstock. Then I've added the die cut panels onto the card bases, and then it's just a simple glue job to add these sentiments and you are done. It really is that simple. If you need just one card, grab one of those background panels that you have laying around if you're anything like me. Heat emboss a quick sentiment or add a die cut word or do both like I've done on these 2 cards, and you have a card like bam, done. And I mean, look at that. Isn't that quite fun? And heat embossing really is just the best way to dress up a simple card, isn't it? There's something about it that's just, it's never going to get old. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you prefer to read the blog post, hop over to Wow Embossing's blog and you will find all the details there. I have been a guest designer today for Wow, so this is all for them. Thank you so much. Give me a thumbs up and I'll see you again soon.